Hello. Will Simmons in the chat. Early gang. Who else we got? Couple people watching, 4 people waiting, but now they're not waiting because we are live. And I'm not going to waste any time. This is a quick one, honestly. We only have really one game to talk about, and we'll hit on a couple other things. Not going to waste any time, like I said. Let's get right to it.
We're doing that Brooklyn Nets talk right here on Talkin Nets. Brooklyn, we go hard. Go hard. Talkin Nets. Hosted by Keith McPherson, Robin Lundberg, and Hudson Flynn.
Oh, yes, sir. Welcome right back. Talkin Nets, episode 201. Shout out to the 201, Keith McPherson, Hudson Flynn, Robin Lundberg. A little bit later tonight, I had some errands to run. I had to go do some things for my future son. I picked up some kicks for my son. He's not even born yet. It's a wild feeling for me. About to be a dad in like 3 weeks. It's crazy. I feel like a different person already. What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Don't buy too many because, they grow mad quick. So you just wind up with all these extra shoes and
I caught them a couple pairs of J's.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, even if he grows out of them fast, they're going to be cool just for a show. So,
Do they still have baby Kyries on the shelf?
Oh, we don't do that anymore. We're done with those. I'm still looking for a place to drop off 4 pairs of Kyries, 2 Kyrie jerseys, 2 KD jerseys.
Amazon won't take the Kyries?
I could sell them.
I
I want to give
everything
them away. I want to give them away to a grown man that still supports Kyrie Irving in the New York, New Jersey area. Anywho, we'll get right to it, man. Last night, your Brooklyn Nets. First off, I want to say shout out to SGA and Oklahoma City. And what they're doing over there. I don't think people talk about them enough. They're so young. I just feel like people don't talk about them enough in regards to like being a team that can sneak up on you, a team that actually can beat you. And they did that yesterday. It is what it is. I'm not tripping over that loss. It was a frustrating loss. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not sweating it. I guess it's tough to lose that game and then see yourself drop back down into the standings. But that's going to happen. That's going to happen the rest of this way. It's going to be a back and forth type of thing. The end of that game was frustrating. I know everybody's talking about Spencer Dinwiddie and his antics I've been talking about for a while. But, yeah, your Brooklyn Nets lose 121-107 to SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I don't know. We'll go around the horn. I already said my piece on it. What are you guys thinking about last night's L?
Well, the part that hurts is they were playing so well in the first half of that game when they went up by 16 points. So coming off of the previous 2 wins and really this whole stretch of basketball, when you see them play that well in the first half, you got to admit you're getting amped. You're like, oh, yeah, here we go. And then they kind of collapse at the end of the second quarter through the third quarter. And the Thunder win the game. You're right about Oklahoma City. They're not, any sort of team to be scared of right now in the playoffs. But going forward, they're a team that can take teams out because they play hard. They got a lot of young guys. SGA's a star. And when they get Chet, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with next year when they're fully, developed there and have their entire personnel and roster. As far as the Nets go, it's still a good road trip. 3-2. I think any of us would have signed up for that before the road trip started. Now you got this tough stretch of games at home. The next 4 games are going to be key. You got to get like 2-2. But the 2 players you focus on after that game are Dinwiddie, who some Nets fans have been frustrated with and who played great to start and then collapsed a little bit of it himself. But I found it interesting. Jacques Vaughn had his back after the game. And Jacques Vaughn and Spence seemed to be simpatico. And Jacques Vaughn said after the game that Spencer Dinwiddie shot 6 free throws and it should have been 16. So I don't think Dinwiddie is doing anything that is off script, at least to his head coach. And then there's Mikal Bridges, who we've said a lot about, but I still think through all the wins and losses that may come the remainder of the season, one thing to keep in mind is the Nets have a burgeoning star here. And that's the thing to be most thrilled about. This guy is a stud. I mean, what did he score? 34 last night, 34, 36, something like that?
34 points.
34.
50% shooting.
And he's starting to take the ball to the rack more. Have you noticed that? Like dribble, drive, attack that way, in addition to those pull-up threes. And then you forget about the defensive end. I thought he was sensational defensively in the fourth quarter. I know SGA scored a ton of points, but Bridges was on him playing great defense in the fourth quarter. There was one play he had a block that wound up getting back into the Thunder's hands. The Thunder are also a bad matchup for the Nets because they kind of crash the glass, and that's one of the Nets' weaknesses. But I don't feel much differently despite Nets Twitter always losing its mind after every single loss. I feel the same way that I did last time we recorded. And remember, you have Mikal Bridges, and that's the most important thing, I think, out of everything we've seen thus far post-trade deadline.
Yeah, and look, it's Wednesday, March 15th. If you count the first four, March Madness has already started up. That felt like when a good team in college loses to just a team that catches fire from three, right? Lou Dort hitting 6 threes, that's off schedule. You can't expect that to happen. He always seems to go off against the Nets. Interestingly enough, we got comments. Dort becomes Ray Allen every time he plays the Nets. Genuinely, Lou Dort is a comical player when he plays the Nets. He goes out of his mind. He's absurd. And people talk about the Nuggets as almost a joke. They make jokes about, they got draft picks. They're trading for third graders.
The Thunder.
Or the Thunder, excuse me. They have all these future draft picks. They have all these future assets. They have a team that has put together wins, and they've put together wins getting contributions not only from their stars. Obviously, they have a young star, soon to be superstar in SGA. Chet is gonna be great in this league. They have a lot of promise, and this isn't a bad loss by any stretch of the imagination. And Robin, like you were talking about, not only did Mikal Bridges get his seemingly automatic 30-plus point game, genuinely he is automatic to get 25.5. I know there's a FanDuel prop where you can bet over 25.5 points a game on every game. If you just hit that for Mikal Bridges for like $10 a night, you'd be rich. Mikal Bridges also first team all defense. He had 4 blocks last night. As a small forward who played the entire game, and blocks are definitely the kind of stat that fades as you get tired. And he's just unreal. And for the same reason he's getting those blocks, his length, he's also improving with going to the rack, which is something that we have seen Jacques Vaughn talk about in the past. If you remember, there was a quote earlier in the season, and Jacques Vaughn said, yeah, we see that he's hitting these middies at a higher percentage. And we like that. It's good when the shots fall. But at the end of the day, we want to get to the basket. We want to take threes. We want to take those, high efficiency, high probability shots that analytics says is the ones to take. And you're seeing him improve in that. And for all of the conversation about Spence, and I will say, I can't stand when Spence argues with the refs. I have no problem conceptually with any player arguing with the refs. I think there's banter. I think it goes back and forth. I think it's important for players to kind of assert themselves in those situations as long as it doesn't cross a line. But when you're at a point where you're arguing with the refs and not getting back on defense, I think that definitely introduces some questions. But there is nothing really larger to look at from this game other than the fact that we saw Mikal Bridges have a good game. We saw some other players have some pretty good games. Cam Johnson got 20 points. He hit 3 threes. And at the end of the day, the Nets lost, but this is still good signs. This is still positive momentum. It's not like we're going back into this now homestand where we are in some sort of a catastrophe where we need to get wins against good teams.
Yeah, I'm just clipping together stuff because I'm producing. There's only a few places to go in this episode. We all pretty much gave our thoughts about the game, but I'll throw this up from our little group chat. Points since the trade deadline. Mikal Bridges, balling. He's got more points than Kyrie and KD combined. And I'll say that to say this. Availability is the best ability. We got ourselves an Iron Man in place of 2 guys that you couldn't depend on. And not only is this Iron Man available, he's our best player available, and he's a consistent 25, 30 points a night. On the KD and Kyrie tip, BK Nets tweets put out a tweet that said KD was always pissed that the Nets couldn't win games without him. One of his main reasons he asked for a trade. Now the Suns literally can't compete with any team without him. And I don't know if you guys watched the NBA, but last night the Suns, they lost to the Bucks, and a couple nights ago they lost to the Warriors. And KD chimed in and said, but then deleted, just say you miss me. Stop being weird. No, KD, you stop being weird.
He tweeted this twice. Well, not tweeted. He tweeted that and then left it in an Instagram comment under like an ESPN post the same day as well.
What's there to miss? When's the last time you saw KD play basketball for the Nets? It's been a while. It's been a couple months, right? What's there to miss? Were we juggernauts? We had a good December. We had a good December. Go ahead, Robin.
Well, I mean, I think you touched on it. I shared that stat with some friends to mess with them, and they're like, "Well, yeah, they haven't played as many games," and I'm like, "That's part of the point." That's the point. Mikal Bridges has never missed a game. Don't want to jinx that, but Kyrie and KD both got traded, and now are both hurt because Kyrie's also out with some foot issue. I don't know if you saw what he said to the Mavs press.
Here we go.
Yeah. The part of this that stood out to me, because he said we're going to see it's not looking good about his injury, but the part of that quote that stood out to me is he said he wants to take care of this now and not when he's 40. And I get the load management aspect in the sense of if he wants to say, hey, I don't want to, this is hurt, I need to give it a day or two so that I'm not out for the year or so that I can be 100% for the playoffs. I just found the comment of, so I'll be okay when I'm 40. I'd rather take care of this now than when I'm 40 years old. A little bit interesting because I know how some fans will take that and go, dog, we're fighting for the playoffs right now. Like you're supposed to give it your all and deal with some of that stuff when your career's over.
You sound like a coach. You sound like you're too focused on like team and basketball and like winning. That's not how he sees this thing.
And the Mavericks, by the way, are precariously positioned as far as just being in the play-in. The Suns are only 2 games up on being in the play-in. So it depends on how long KD is out for. But that's part of the, therein lies the rub, right? Because you could say, oh, I miss KD or whatever, miss whatever this version of the team was. This version of the team was on its last legs, metaphorically and probably literally. And this new version of the team is growing. So I think that's one of the big differences there. And I guess there are some fans who can't get over it, as I mentioned on the last episode, but I don't miss it. And I'm very happy with the state of the franchise. I think you are in a position where you want to get a running mate for Mikal Bridges, a dynamic guard at some point, but there are a lot of good players on this team. I think Hudson sort of alluded to it a little bit before too. They've been playing a pretty good basketball over a stretch, and the Thunder are also playing well. And they kind of had a momentum swinging section of that game where it just got away. Usually that's a scheduled loss, the end of a road trip. I feel like we'll know about the relative quality of the Nets in this stretch of home games coming up.
So
yes,
I just wanted to read the actual
quote, go ahead, Keith.
So we can move past that. So this is a quote from Kyrie. I watched the game a couple nights ago where the Grizzlies beat the Mavs, and Luka and Kyrie are just sitting there. He says, we're going to see, but it's not looking good. This injury on my foot is going to take a little bit more time than I thought. It's obviously still day-to-day, but we've just got to take more time. It's right around my big toe, right around my plantar. I took a wrong step in New Orleans, and it just felt like my knuckles cracked. I just wanted to take precautionary measures at this point in the season. I make my whole entire living with my feet, so I'd rather take care of it now than when I'm 40 years old. We'd love to be out there, including myself, but we've just got to get our health right first and then try to make a push towards the end of the season. Kyrie Irving, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know if that's what you want to hear from a player that is, in all honesty, a rental. You don't know if Kyrie's coming back. Frankly, what do Mavs fans care about how he's feeling when he's 40? I know it sounds cruel to say, and that these players are people as well, but if you're a Mavs fan, I would feel a little hard done by that quote, because Kyrie Irving did all of that work to push his way out of Brooklyn to end up on the Mavs as a rental for the Mavs to be able to theoretically make a push, not just to maybe win a playoff series. The idea with the Mavs, with Luka and Christian Wood, is that they're a title contender adding Kyrie Irving, and they are anything but, and they're certainly anything but without Luka and Kyrie on the floor at the same time. But circling all the way back to the point about the best ability being availability, and someone in the comments said we have to get that put on a shirt or a sweatshirt. But and I've gone on this rant before, so I won't beat the proverbial dead horse for far too long. But people always rail on counting stats, on total points, on total assists, on total wins, on total games played, and there is good reason to, right? Especially in a lot of sports, you can see stats get skewed. You can see players put up a ton of points, a ton of total points on a team that isn't winning. What did they contribute to winning? When you compare Mikal Bridges over the stretch since coming to the Nets to KD and Kyrie combined since leaving the Nets, you're in a situation where you have to tell yourself, okay, well, on one hand, no, Mikal Bridges is not as talented. He is not as good of a pure basketball player. If you put him in 2K, he is not as good as either of those players. That is true. But you also have to ask yourself, does that really matter? Is theoretical basketball skill, is that valuable to a team? Maybe from a branding perspective, but when you have Mikal Bridges, who, let's say, can put up 25 points a game over an 82-game season without missing any games, is that better than Kevin Durant, who can put up 35 points a game over the course of, 35 games?
Yeah, it's tough to compare these things without actually talking about the whole person and what they bring. Like, if we're talking about player X versus player Z, that's one thing. But I think we all learned firsthand through the 7-11 KD Kyrie experiment. There's just so much more that comes with these guys. And now that they're not here, we're all kind of just like, okay, it's not worth it. And we got out of it. And these guys are aging. They're both on the wrong side of 30. If you look, someone put out, I think Nets Daily put out a tweet with the ages of the Brooklyn Nets, all under 30, all 29 and younger. I'm fine with where we're at, and I still think the bar is set to where, like I said, these guys can make the playoffs, not the play-in. Still, these guys win one playoff game. They've done more than KD and Kyrie did in their last postseason with the Brooklyn Nets. That's still on the table. So,
there's two quick comparisons I'm going to make or try to tie this to recent news. One is Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, essentially, right? That's happening. And it's not the same, but there are feelings around it that remind me of rooting for the Nets. So, I had some buddies go, oh, you're going to have your kids be Jets fans? I was like, nah, man. I just went through what it's like to follow a team where there's like drama and anxiety all the time. And, maybe that won't be the same because the NFL is not the NBA and people are bored and they need something to talk about. So every aspect of the Rodgers thing has been dissected. It wasn't exactly all his fault, but I think you get the point there when it's this idea of a championship. Oh, he's there. You're going to win a championship. And then it's like, that's it. If you don't win a championship, it's a failure. And that's a lot of anxiety and pressure to root for. And then I tie that into what Damian Lillard said when he said that the ring culture in the NBA really bothers him. And I think I hinted at this on the pod an episode or two ago, though, because somebody had sent me a Slack or a comment, or they didn't send me a Slack. I don't work with them. Sent me a comment or a tweet or whatever saying, well, it's the only goal is to win a championship. And yeah, the goal is to win a championship. And the goal of the front office is to put the team into a position to win the championship year in and year out. But that's not the only thing that matters. Last night's game against the Thunder mattered to us, right? We watched and we felt bad when the Nets blew a 16-point lead. The game against the Nuggets mattered to us. 1.9 seconds left. My son and I are watching. We embrace after. The game against the Wolves mattered to us. Same deal. I'm watching with my kids through overtime. The development of Mikal Bridges matters to us. Spencer Dinwiddie and how he conducts himself with the officials matters to us. He's a guy that's been here and is back again. All these things matter to us. And that counts. That counts. So if you're telling me the only thing that matters is a championship, then what is the point of everything else from the start and in between? And that has to matter. And I think that's what has level set the fan base, the franchise, and everything else, that it's not only the championship, though that's what you ultimately want.
I had to step out. Did you get to this point talking about what Damian Lillard said?
Yeah. That's why I use this as a reference point. Yeah.
Good.
And Robin, I have to say, let's take the other side of it. Let's say a championship is the only thing that matters. Period. Full stop. I don't believe that. I agree with what you said, but let's take that side. Is Kevin Durant and a Kyrie Irving who doesn't want to be here and will shut himself down and not play, is that the route to a championship?
Well,
Giving Kyrie,
these guys haven't won a chip in years.
Like,
they won it with two of the greatest players, LeBron and Curry, next to them.
From the perspective of the Nets fans who are saying all that matters is a championship, this is on Mark's side. We had to win a championship. We have to win a championship. That's why we don't trade them. Do you genuinely think that we were ever going to win a championship with Kyrie Irving not on the floor and Kevin Durant on one leg?
Well, I guess you could easily make the case they had a better chance to win the championship this season, but they weren't going to win the championship this season. I think this Nets team has a better chance to win the championship next year, depending on what happens in the summer, and the year after that, and then the year after that.
It's too narrow. It's too narrow of a sample size. If that is the only thing that matters, the Nets are in a better, because I didn't think they were going to win this year. I think the Nets are in a better position to win a championship now in the next 5 years than they were before these trades, because quite honestly, they have depreciating assets who clearly one of them doesn't want to play, and the other one is chronically online and is so committed to wanting to be missed that he's not providing much value.
Let's play his voicemail. We'll take the questions in the chat and then we'll wrap this up.
He'd be typing. When I had that DM back, not the one on public, but the DM one, I would say something and then he'd be responding, and he respond. And then when I went to respond to what he was going to say, I'd see him typing and he'd type another thing before I could respond to what he initially said. And I was like, "Well,"
because he's thinking the whole time. He's like, whatever I say has got to get to him.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get to him, he can screenshot it and let the world see it. And I'll take this L. Like, bruh, we can't be doing all that. We can't be doing all that. It's not that serious. It's never that serious.
What's up, y'all? Tough loss against OKC yesterday, man. I don't know why Ludor always going off against us. Spencer Dinwiddie, please shut up and stop complaining about the refs all the time. Please, bro, you are not a star. You are not going to get those calls. But I did see some wild statistics about that man not getting some calls. Hope somebody investigates that, man. But all the turnovers he was having was not it. Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson have to shoot the ball more, please. Like, we need to start setting up more plays for those two. Dinwiddie cannot be taking all those shots and shooting that poorly. In other news, KD, Kyrie, I hear y'all talking about them on the pod right now. They look pathetic. Both are injured. Both of their teams without them really can't function and can't win games because they both gave up their depth and or picks, which are things that we have now. So I still say we win the trade. I know there ain't no results, and I know we ain't going for chips and whatnot, but at the same time, I still feel like we win. So let's continue to keep it going, and GG's. Let's go Nets, Brooklyn.
Yes, sir. I just think karma is kicking their ass right now, and I've said that before. It has nothing to do with their injuries. It has to do with you thinking you're so mighty and powerful. It has to do with you thinking that you can just control things and force your way and not thinking of others. I said this on the radio the other night, like, let this be a cautionary tale. It was a cautionary tale for Nets fans going the superstar route. When it started, all of the expectations of the finals, winning a chip. Finally, we have the pieces. We have the stars that you need in the NBA to win a chip. Kyrie won a chip. KD won a chip. They're going to come here and do this. No, look how it ended. And all things considered, it ended in a way that I told you was going to wear worse on them than us. And right away, it is wearing worse on them. There's nobody looking at the Brooklyn Nets right now saying, wow, they're decimated. They can't compete. They can't win. They're about to be a lottery pick. There's people looking at the Brooklyn Nets saying, hold on, they're figuring it out. And yeah, we lost to OKC last night, but it's the NBA. You're going to lose games. People are looking at the Nets like they could make some noise and they might be a tough out in the playoffs. So we'll see, man. We'll take the chat questions now, and we'll wrap this thing up. I didn't really want this to be longer than like 30 minutes. Is it worth keeping Nerlens Noel for size? If you ask me, no, because I've seen Dorian Finney-Smith. I've seen Royce O'Neal. I've seen these guys kind of fill in and figure it out. They might bring him back, though, because of this joker, Ben Simmons. What do you think of the Ben Simmons situation? I think he's a lost cause. He's a waste of money and a roster space. He's not going to come back. And if he does, he's not going to be what anybody needs him to be for this team. You guys' thoughts?
Well, I forget what account tweeted, described Ben Simmons in 3 words or less. I said DNP. That's basically what you
3 letters.
Yeah, since he's been here. Well, who knows what's going to happen with that, but I don't expect him back this season. Noel could be kept, I guess, in the event that they play a team with a certain player.
Play
like
Dayron those 7 minutes.
Joel Embiid or whatever. Point being, I agree with you. The small ball lineups are better. They are more effective. You know, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, whomever at the center, the Nets are a better team when they deploy that personnel. It also allows them to really spread, like they'll put those bench units out there, and it's the minutes that Seth Curry's playing and Joe Harris is playing. So you're really spreading the floor for the shooters too. So I think they're better off going small with the second unit.
Yeah, and I certainly understand the argument for keeping Nerlens Noel, right? And that couples with the Ben Simmons thing. If the Nets are not going to have Ben Simmons, which they are not, right? They do theoretically want someone to be that kind of a big who can step in that situation, right? But when you are in a situation where the value you're getting from Nerlens Noel is not greater than the value you are getting from a small ball lineup, even if you are losing some of that value on the defensive end, you're losing some of that size. I don't see any reason why you need to keep Nerlens Noel unless you are going to only play him in very, very specialized situations, which I think would be the reality if the Nets kept him. But moving in on the Ben Simmons point, and our guy John in the chat asked, do we believe these picks that we picked up are to be used eventually to be traded? And I'm going to couple those 2 points and say, I think some of those picks are going to be used to offset value in trading away Ben Simmons this summer. I think the Nets.
And not to cut you off, Hudson, I didn't take any of those other questions about like off-season moves and stuff. We're not there yet. We'll have plenty of time to pod and plot and speculate on the off-season. We're in this season, fellas. Like, let's see where these guys go and let the chips fall where they may. The future's bright for the Brooklyn Nets. There's no reason to waste time today speculating on what Sean Marks is going to do or not do with these picks. We have 2 podcasts a week that will hit them. Let's see.
I just don't think anyone should be worried about Ben Simmons' future with the Nets. I just don't think
there is none. They're not paying another season of it's not going down. They'll cut bait. That's all we've got. Appreciate everybody pulling up. We got a last minute voicemail in. You guys sending questions in the chat, pulling up late notice. I know I didn't tweet out that we were going to pod today, but that's another quick pod, 30 minutes. And obviously, if you guys follow, NBA.com, they put up the playoff picture, and the Nets have dropped to the 6th seed where we'd be facing Philadelphia. It'd be a little similar to 2018, 2019, the year that after we decided to start this pod. But it's obviously completely different teams. I much rather face our old buddies in Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, get that 5 seed and face Cleveland. But those Knicks fans want to see Donovan Mitchell. And who knows, man? I don't know. I know Miami's got a tough one tonight. Miami faces Memphis tonight. We'll see what they do against them. And for the Nets are returning home. I think we saw Joe Tsai tweet about that. I don't know how you guys feel about Joe Tsai. I looked at the comments and it was not looking like people were feeling him. But tomorrow, Kings, Nets, then Nuggets, Nets Sunday. And then we've got this little home and home series against the Cavaliers. We'll definitely have a pod, maybe two, before all that's done. That's all we've got, folks. Appreciate y'all. Let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.